Hi, this is AUI 2000 with my first episode of AUI's 2 Cents. And, well, before anything, I really want to talk about the name because I really like it personally. And so I came up sort of with the idea for the show where I could talk about stuff that I think are pertinent to learning, but I can't really explain in a replay. And I'm not very creative, and I'm really bad at doing things like coming up with names. So I asked my manager and my girlfriend to come up with a name. And within like 30 minutes to an hour, my girlfriend came up with this name. And I really like it, so shout out to her for that. And so, as I mentioned, this series is going to talk about everything that I think needs to be talked about that I can't use a replay to show, because I think there's a lot of things in Dota like that, and I think they're actually very important for improving. My first episode will focus on pub mentality, so it's basically like how I think you should approach the game. And I think the first thing that you need to decide when you're going into Dota is sort of to identify what you want from the game. And I think that can be sort of broken down into three different things, and they're not mutually exclusive. In fact, I think they're important to have two of those or something like that, but they're like having fun, improving your MMR, or getting better. And having fun is obviously a key component in getting better and improving your MMR, in my opinion anyways. So to learn the game, because I'm going to start from like the first time you play Dota. So to learn the game, I think that you should spam one hero. For me, as Vengeful Spirit, I think she's a good hero. You have a stun, you are a decent carry, or a decent support. You can pretty much do anything. And you spam that hero until you learn some of the basic nuances of the game, like how items work, how to buy items, how to use a tango, that eating the bigger tree doesn't heal you more like my friend believed, stuff like that, you know? And then after you've learned those very basics, I think that it's important to play each hero at least once. And ideally, I think you should win on each hero at least once. So that's where something like the A to Z challenge comes in, where you play every hero starting with A until you finish every hero ending with Z, starting with Z. And you go alphabetical order. Are there any heroes that start with Z? Just like Z, but he's not in the game or something. But ignore that. Sorry. And if we look at it that way, and we have to realize that after all this, you're actually still terrible, and you've only covered the basics. You have to realize that getting better at Dota is actually a really big commitment. As if we assume a 50% win rate, at 45 minutes a game for over 100 heroes, that's at least 150 hours. And like, to put that in sort of a real world equivalent, if I took 4 courses in my university for a semester, that's about how long I would spend in class. And then of course you're still terrible. So I don't want that to discourage anyone, because I think that the time where you're learning Dota is probably some of the most fun you'll have in Dota, or it was for me personally. And I think that that sort of depth is what makes Dota interesting for me, because I think it's the most in-depth game I've ever played. But it is a huge commitment, and there are tools that you can use. Like, I'll put this in the info because I don't think anyone will understand me. But wonderfulfailure.com/DotaQuiz/hard. And that'll help you get used to different heroes and the spell costs and that, like, cooldown and stuff like that. But you have to realize Dota has over 100 heroes, and like I think it's like 300 items or something, and you have to learn interactions between every hero, and you have to learn when to buy items. So it's a complex game. But anyways, your approach to Dota. So like, I think most people want to improve their MMR eventually, and I think that's both in getting better and just wanting to improve your MMR. But first I want to talk about what MMR is. So I think that, in my opinion, the definition of MMR is strictly a measure of your ability to win a game. So, okay, there are external factors like luck, abundance, good days, bad days, whatever, a bunch of stuff like that. But I think in the long run, if you have a good sample size, MMR will give you a relatively accurate measurement of how likely you are to win a game, relative to the MMRs of other people in the game. And we should keep that in mind, because that means that everything that you do is going to be a contributor to your MMR rating. So your communication, your leg, your mechanical skill, and like a ton of other factors are all going to affect your MMR. Just a little caveat here, but like that means that the Russian or Peruvian that everyone flames for not being able to communicate or whatever. So in my like how I think about it is that if they can't communicate, they're losing MMR for not being able to communicate, because your communication affects your MMR. So if they lose 100 MMR for communicating, they're making up for that 100 MMR somewhere else. This is under the assumption that they're the same MMR as you. So that Russian Peruvian you're flaming is probably better than you in a strictly mechanical sense. So just some food for thought before you flame in a Russian or Peruvian. And yeah, that's not strictly true. Servers aren't locked. MMR on Europe's inflated compared to North America. Haha. No. But it's true as a general theme. And what we can also take from that is that people who flame and people who do not communicate well will have reduced MMRs compared to people who are being like nice, reasonable human beings. So, yeah. There is an aspect of MMR where sort of it's not a static number. Like you don't get one rating, right? And it stays there. Everyone is improving at Dota. So there's sort of an aspect of MMR inflation. So the best players in Dota 1, if we put them in a game of Dota 2 right now, if like they were used to the mechanics and everything, they would not even be 5k, I think, like from watching them. I'm not saying that they wouldn't get very high very quickly because they're talented and they're hardworking and stuff like that. But if they play one game of calibration today, they would probably be like 4.5k at best, I think. And that's because the game has evolved a lot. People have gotten better. People farm faster, people fight better, people are quicker, everything has gone better. And what defines a good player is the ability to stay ahead of the curve. So if MMR is always inflating at a sort of a steady rate, because I think in general, everyone's sort of getting better at the game, slowly, quickly, whatever. The easiest, most consistent way to get higher MMR is to improve faster than the curve. So that can be done a lot of ways. Like you can be done from playing more, learning from various tools, I don't know, watching replays. But the overarching theme is that you need to get better faster in order to improve your MMR consistently, where faster is compared to the average. And I do want to say that if your goal is to improve MMR short term, you can probably spam one hero all the way. I don't recommend it just because I think that by spamming one hero, unless you've already reached a reasonable level of understanding, say like 4.5 to 5k MMR, I think you're hindering yourself in the long term. And I think that if a patch hits that nerfs your heroes, you're actually getting patched out of the game. And I think that there's nothing worse than being a 1k lower MMR hero, except a one hero compared to everything else, so you can only play one hero. I think that's the easiest way to get bored of the game. But once you hit like 5k or something, I think spamming one hero if you want to make leaderboards is a pretty reasonable goal, so you can do that. Is going back to some more of pub mentality stuff, I want to talk about flaming, because flaming happens a lot in Dota. It's very hard to not flame in Dota, I think, for a lot of people, because like one mistake from one of your 4 allies can cause such bad results for the next 45 to 60 minutes, and that sort of mistake from your ally affecting the game that much is sort of unique to the genre that Dota is in. Just because, I don't know, it leads to flame so easily, right? Like anything with teamwork sort of leads to flame in video games, I guess, but I think it's more present in Dota than anything. People, I think, don't realize that flaming almost never helps. Like, I've never seen someone get flamed and be like, "You're right, I will play better now." Like, I've never seen that happen. I've played a lot of Dota. So I do want to say, like, if you're flaming, you're going to be losing yourself MMR. And I would argue that you will also improve faster if you don't flame, because there are less games where people hate you and just throw. And, like, those games are just wasted time, basically. I do want to say that if you're consistently flaming every game, the problem probably isn't your teammates. There's, like, an easier common denominator there. And you should really ask yourself, will saying something help me win this game or achieve my goal of becoming better or higher long-term MMR? There's sort of a concept I have with, so like high-rated players, we play with people who are extremely low-rated compared to us because they need to balance out the MMR and there's not enough high-rated players. But even these sort of lower-rated players who will be like, I play with like a lot of 4Ks, which is, it's not the best for me because everyone on our team will be at least 5K. But I have a concept of making the game easier for my team. So that's like if I random, I'm gonna buy a courier and help them, or I'm gonna say, hey, I think this item's good, and I try to say it in a nice way. Making the game easier for your team will increase your MMR as well. The next concept I want to talk about is sort of the concept of Elo Hell, because that's sort of, I see it on forums a lot. I think the concept of Elo Hell only exists as people surround themselves by it. And this is because I don't think, like, there's Dunning-Kruger and all that stuff, but I think the biggest thing is that at the low level, inconsistency is a huge thing. And by a low level, I mean anything under a professional level. So I shouldn't say low level. In Dota, inconsistency is a huge thing. And yes, it affects pros. But things like a good day, bad day, heroes you're playing against, who you're playing against, whatever, like, the level to which it affects a pub player is very drastic. Like, every pro player will be able to play any hero at, say, at least a 6k level of competency. And that might move them down from 6.5k to 6k. But a pub player might be able to play one hero from at a 4k level and the rest of the heroes at a 3k level. And that the gap from 4k to 3k is way huger in skill discrepancy than from 6.5k to 6k. So, other pro players will be better at taking advantage of another pro's bad play. But I think overall, pub players are way more affected by inconsistency than pros. So, I think that's the reason for a lot of Elo Hell, just because it's like there is no good MMR system for a team game like Dota. I actually don't think it exists. I thought a lot about it. I can't think of one that exists. People send me messages about creating a new MMR system, and I don't think it's possible for Dota. Just because like it's too hard or too many. You would have to have something very specific, and everyone would have to play like 10,000 games. And that's how you have a good MMR system. And I think that people who suffer from Elo Hell generally have bad attitudes. So I think they go into games with these bad attitudes, and they're mechanically superior to their allies, right? Which gives them the sort of illusion of Elo Hell because all their allies are worse mechanically than them. But I don't think it's true. I think that by having a bad attitude into the game, they make their teammates play worse. And as I talked about before, if you make your teammates play worse, you're going to sort of lose MMR. You're going to subvert your higher mechanical skill because everyone else on your team is going to play worse. And they blame that on some Elo Hell bullshit. I think it's pretty much just on them. And I'm going to use a sort of anecdotal example here. Anyways, my friend Mers in Dota 1, he was pretty notorious for flaming pubs. Like, he would flame every game. One day, I think his enter key broke or something. And after his enter key broke and he couldn't type to his allies, he won every single game, like 10 games straight or something. And he messaged me, he's like, wow, this Dota's so easy, right? And yeah, it's anecdotal and he probably got a bit lucky, but I think in general, like, the theme sort of holds true. Like, if you don't flame your allies, then you will get better at the game. You will have your MMR improve. So, a lot of people ask me, especially after I've done my replay things, they always complain about their team, and I always ask them, what have they done to make the game easier for their team? And the answer is invariably nothing. Like, Dota players, like myself included, are pretty much incredibly entitled in-game without a thought to their teammates. Like, if you play a core role, like mid, offlane, carry, when's the last time you've ever bought a set of wards to help your support because they have no boots at 7 minutes? Like, people, whenever I see, like, my support, like, I'm the mid, or someone's the mid, I see a mid with 2 kills, and I see the support who's getting just destroyed in lane. He had to pull, he had to buy courier, he had to buy obs, he has to buy the second pair of obs, he has to crawl. That mid, I've never seen that mid help him out. I've never seen that mid ask him if he needs help. Like, when's the last time a core bought ward so support could barely finish his 4 staff, which is hugely game impactful. And actually, I don't remember the last time I seen a core click on the support to see if he needs some help or offer some help. But yeah, anyways, I'm saying this way overly long, but I think the point's there, right? Like, if you make your game easier for that support, your support's going to have an impact in the game. Because believe it or not, item on supports are really, really strong in Dota. Small items are incredibly effective in Dota. Anyways, this went way longer than I thought it would. I wanted it to be like 5-10 minutes. It's already about 15. But the basic gist of it is, if you want to improve your MMR, Merlin said something. Improving in pubs in Dota is better than winning in pubs in Dota. And I completely agree with that. but you have to also realize that your MMR strongly reflects how you affect your teammates. Because if I make everyone on my team play 500 MMR better than they are somehow because I'm magical, and I'm playing 1,000 worse than my MMR, I'm going to win the game. Like, that's just how it is. Your 4 teammates have a greater effect on the game than you as a solo player. And that's something to really, really keep in mind. And I think a lot of people sort of watch this video and be like, that's bullshit, right? Like, my allies always suck. But I just want to say, like, I've hit a decent MMR. And, like, I get carried every other game. Like, I 100% know as a fact you can get to really high MMRs by getting carried by your team. Because, I don't know, I don't really mind playing support on pubs. And people have sort of this thing against that for some reason, I don't know. And, yeah, just, it's something you're going to have to trust me on. Go into a pubs with a positive attitude. Go into pubs with wanting to get better rather than just wanting to win, I think, is the fastest way to improve. And go into pubs knowing that if you're a nice person, you're going to have a higher MMR. So, moral of the story is, be nice. Play nicely. And, yeah, so that was my first AEOI's 2 cents. I like the name. As always, please leave me a comment because I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I'm filming from my hotel room in Stockholm. I tried to film this on YouTube like 3 times, and internet cutting out, so I'm actually on tilt here. But, like, please leave me a comment. Tell me what I'm doing wrong, what I'm doing right, what you'd like to see in the next one, or different topics. And, yeah, thanks for watching.